I also listen to my gut, and I'm not worried about making the wrong decision. Like I don't care if I fail. Like, and I don't even say like fail, whatever. I don't care if it doesn't work because I tried and I know that I can try something different. So to me, that is like, as long as you take the plunge and you try something out, it doesn't matter.
I'm Erica.
And I'm CJ.
And you're listening to the Her Podcast. We're excited to welcome Jordana Jacobson to today's episode. Jordana is a seasoned entrepreneur with 18 years of experience in turning visions into successful realities. Having sold 2 small businesses and mastered the art of efficiency, she's on a mission to help overwhelmed small business owners reclaim their time and grow their business sustainably. In this episode, we chat about how you can harness the power of systems to streamline your life, Jordana's journey to discovering the importance of organization and efficiency, practical steps to implement organization and prioritize effectively, how systems can transform your life and business, leading to greater fulfillment and reclaimed time, tips for organizing daily routines, work, calendars, meals, and more, and conducting a time audit to identify priorities and eliminate time-wasting habits. This episode is going to get you fired up to get organized, implement systems that work for you, and take control of your calendar. Let's dive in and welcome Jordana Jacobson to the Her Podcast.
I feel like one of the things that is sort of like a tagline that could be like a tagline of yours, and maybe you don't even know this, and you're like,
I don't know.
But when I was thinking of you and going through like your notes and preparing and stuff like that, I was like, Jordana says that she was working 24/7 and cut herself down to a 12-hour work week. And I feel like when people hear that, they're like, whoa, that's so impressive, right? Because I think a lot of people can identify whether it's like work or like, balance of like home life, like they're just feeling on 24/7, right? And getting to a place where you are having time management and saying that you're working 12 hours is incredible. So I think today we're going to be able to like dive into all of that and explain it. But I think that's a really good starting point for our listeners to really know where we're going with you. So I have so many questions for you. I want to obviously go back a little bit to like know if you were always organized or
because that's the vibe. Like when we were talking about having you on, I was like, I mean, we wanted to have you on anyways because we really love you, and I feel like we connect always through social. But we were talking about you, and I think we both were just straight up like, Jordana is like organized. Like I feel like when I watch her stories, I'm like inspired to be like, get my routine going, have my water. Like it feels like your life has this system or flow to it that I think a lot of specifically women are probably looking for. Yeah. Right. And so like CJ said, I think we're wondering like, was that always the case?
You know, I think that I've always been somewhat organized, but not to the level that I needed to be to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And life, I mean, changes, right? And so when I think back before I even had kids, like that organization was a whole different level that when you have kids and then you're throwing in a business and you're throwing in all these other life things, it definitely changed. But I do feel like the basis of who I was always like, I think if you were to ask my friends when I was younger, they would definitely say that I had that element of organization. I was very strict with my time and how I spent it. Yeah. But the processes that I had when I was younger didn't work for me anymore. And that's like what I realized later on. It's like, okay, this is not working. I built myself a life of, I call it 25/7, go, go, go. And that wasn't working for me anymore.
Because you built a business, right? Well, multiple businesses you've built, but like, what did it look like for you working 25/7? Like, what were you, and what was your breaking point, but like, what was your day-to-day looking like? Was your body on red line? How was your health, your relationships?
Everything. Every minute of my day was taken up by something. Like I literally, I make a joke, but I didn't cook dinner for my family probably for 15 years. Wow. And that's, and I actually enjoy cooking. Not that I'm a great cook, but I like the act of cooking. Yeah. But I didn't have time. I didn't have time for that. So literally, you know, I was heavily into bodybuilding before. So that was also part of the mix.
Yeah.
I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would get up, I would work out. I would go to the gym before my family got up. So that was like 5:30 to 7. I would rush home. I would get ready. My husband would get up. Like my day was pure chaos from the moment I opened my eyes until I went to bed every single night for 15 years.
Wow.
So,
It's impressive you did that for 15 years.
And I do it for like one, and I'd be like, she's tapped by.
Ouch.
and I think about that too. It's like, how did I do it? But when
Yeah.
you're in the middle of it, you just keep going and you keep going. And the thing is that I did have a lot of success in doing that too. Mm-hmm. So that drove me because I was like, okay, I'm going to the gym 5 days a week. I'm bodybuilding. I'm winning competitions. I built a business. And I don't mean this as like a toot my own horn thing, but like
toot your own horn. That's why you're here. Toot your own horn.
The behaviors I was doing were being reinforced.
Yes.
You were getting the results you wanted.
I was getting results I wanted.
Yeah.
I built this business. It was successful. It was like, and it was like, if I keep going, it's just going to be more successful and more success and more success. And I'm very driven. And so it was like, well, I've got the recipe. You just go, go, go.
Yeah.
Until you don't.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wow. I remember, I'm just fast forwarding now.
No,
Sorry.
just-
So like,
you're
tell me
great.
if I'm,
Go, you're good.
but it was 2018 and I just thought about sort of where I was at in life and my business specifically, because that's really what drove all these changes. And I was like, I built myself a job, not a business.
Yeah.
And I can't do this anymore. I'm not happy. It's like, I don't know if there was anything specific that happened, but it was just this realization that I'm doing all of the things and not maybe as well as I should be. And I wasn't happy.
Do you think that at any point up until 2018, you were confusing, and tell me if I'm wrong, but like confusing success with happiness?
Oh, 100%.
Because as you were saying this cycle you're doing, I was like, oh, I wonder if she, you know, because some people, like we've talked before about CJ being a workhorse and like she likes to work. And I'm like, some people really genuinely like to work and they like to be go, 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 right? That's built into them. And I was like, oh, I wonder if you loved doing that at one point. And then it like, yeah, you lost the sense of happiness to success. And I think sometimes we can all feel like success is happiness when it's really not.
Yeah, I confuse them for sure. And I do really enjoy work too. I am definitely, I need lots of things on the go, but not at the expense of everything else in my life.
Yeah.
And that's where it was like, I never sit and think about like, it was just all consuming.
Yeah.
It was every vacation that I would take with my family, I was working. Everything that I was supposed to be sort of like my own time was consumed by everything else.
Yeah.
And I couldn't escape it.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, enough is enough.
So at any point, did your husband or children say anything to you?
Never.
Never. They're just like, go mom, go.
Yeah. Never.
Wow.
No one in my life ever said anything. No.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Which, like, twofold. One, I feel like, and maybe you guys agree or disagree, but like part of society for a long time has been work, like work hard.
Yeah.
Like if you want results, work. And I think only recently I've seen this like shift of like, you know, we're sort of going against the grain of hustle culture and being like, what is actually important to you? What do you value? You know, like hustle has, you know, negative effects sometimes on your health and your relationships. And so I think even if it was ingrained sort of in society, like why would someone come to you?
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
point.
Possibly.
No, for sure. And
Yeah.
I was huge. Hustle culture was like my middle name.
Yeah.
It's like, I can do that.
I got
like,
that
add it to the
tattooed.
plate.
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah, that was exactly where I was at.
And so when you decide that it's like too much, what did that look like for you?
The biggest part of all of this was my business, honestly.
Yeah.
That was the biggest part that I needed. I needed to take control back. It had become such a big thing and I was everything in my business. And I needed to take a step back and find time. Yeah, I needed to find time outside of who I was as a business owner. So it wasn't like I needed to change a whole bunch of things. I mean, within my business I did, but it wasn't like my life. It just, by changing things in my business, it created pockets of time that I could use to enjoy other things in my life.
And at this time, had you already started to do the new building?
No.
Because this is like before COVID.
Yeah, this is before COVID. This is 2018. So the new space, you're talking about my new space.
Yeah. The new.
For the store was 2019. I started that.
Like, I'm curious on how you decided to move forward with a new space.
So what a lot of people didn't know about my business specifically is that I had thought about selling years prior. So I actually had my business assessed.
Yep.
In 2017, I believe it was. And because obviously those thoughts were already coming into my head, like, do I want this for my life moving forward? Yep. Is this where I see myself, in 5 years, 10 years? And so I had it assessed, and obviously it wasn't the right time because I chose not to move forward with it. But my broker said something to me that was very interesting. And he's like, you are your business. So when you're selling your business, you are going to sell it to people who want to be in their business. If you are not the main part of it, you are opening that up to a whole new world of people. And it's people who want to buy it as an investment or people who, basically an investment. So I was like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense, right? And so that was part of the drive in that too.
Okay.
Is like, okay, I know, maybe, and I didn't know for sure it was going to be 5 years, it was exactly 5 years from that point, but I didn't know at the time. And so it was a huge driver in getting to me to where I needed to be.
When you get to a place that you're going to sell, what are the systems, like in those 5 years, did you find different ways to function better?
Everything was different.
Everything was different. So what were you doing personally in your life to not be working at 25/7?
25/7.
25/7?
It didn't happen overnight. Okay. I was like little bit by little bit. And you don't honestly see probably much improvement right off the hop. It takes a lot of little things. So there was lots of like incremental changes that we were making, and they were just small, and it seemed really insignificant changes, but processes that we're putting into place, just different communication channels, all of these things just added up. And so what that did is it allowed me to take a step back and remove myself somewhat, and then that just kept increasing and increasing and increasing. And I could have spent more time in my business, when I was working 12 hours a week. I'm not saying that that's like the goal for everybody.
Yeah.
But I was also exiting.
Yeah.
Right. So in my head.
Did you know you were exiting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I had a feeling that it was coming.
Yeah.
I didn't know exactly.
Yeah.
But
so
I was
preparing.
I was preparing. It was kind of like a mental preparation maybe for myself too, because it was easier to let go in a sense because I wasn't immersed in it.
Well, and that was the question I had for you, because I imagine with like a hardworking, driven person, if I can speak from my own personal experience, sometimes control, you know, is why we find ourselves, or I have found myself, in the middle of everything. And so I'm curious how you worked through letting go of control, and in yourself. Yeah, working through that.
It's a huge one. Control is a big thing. And we like what we like. And we like things done the way we like things done. That was big for me. But I also realized that there are so many people out there that are better at things than I am.
Yeah.
And so when you start recognizing that, it's like, well, hey, because the return is so much greater, right? Time and financial return. Yeah. When you're investing in people who are better at what that project is or than you are, right? So the return for me was like, okay, again, that's being reinforced. It's like, okay, if I hire out to all these experts, I'm getting a bigger return.
Yes.
So then how do you get to a place, and I know that you're saying, well, when you can see the return, right? We understand that part, but how do you actually let go of something? Because I think there's probably a lot of people listening, whether they're in business or they're in their home and they have ways that they like to run things. How did you get to the place that you could bring someone else in to do something? Was it like a process of reading a really good book? Did you have conversations? Was there inner work going on that was like, okay, I need to actually let go? What did that look like?
It was all of it.
Okay.
And it's creating the processes before. And they may not be the right ones, but it's like having something in place that you can tweak. And it's like, okay, did that work? No, a lot of times it didn't work. It didn't work. And that doesn't mean necessarily like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm done trying.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how can I try that differently? What can I do differently that's going to, make a better impact next time? So yeah, it's a lot of different things. I'm a sponge, like podcasts and audiobooks and whatever I can get my hands on, and just speaking to other people who have the expertise. So it was all of that. And it was just putting processes into place to streamline, even like I just think about like grocery shopping. Like how many people end up going to the grocery store like every day because they forget
and
something.
Aimlessly.
Right. And so how much time is that wasting? Right. And it's just like little things like that. It's like taking the time to plan, come up with a process.
Okay, so let's get into this because I wanted to ask like an example, on how you actually do something. But this is a good one because our audience in our question box was like meal planning,
right?
Prepping meals like groceries.
Yeah.
So I'm like dive into that for us, like what a system and process actually looks like from you, like from start to finish, and like how maybe our listeners could implement some of that too.
I think every process is different.
Yeah.
So I don't think I necessarily have the same process for everything, but I mean, write things down, like just simple things that it's like, okay, if I know I buy X, Y, and Z from Costco, have a Costco list that every time I go to Costco, I'm checking that list, right? Instead of being like, what do we order from Costco again? Or what do we grab from Costco again? And then it's like, oh, right, I forgot right? How many times?
Keep a running list to be like when you go, oh no, we have blueberries, so I don't need to get that.
Keep
but like
a list, like just little things, right? And everybody's like,
do you keep it in your phone or in a journal?
It depends on the list.
Yep.
So I have a very,
or an app?
All of it.
Okay.
It depends on, if it's a personal or business thing, and what it is specifically, but we have an app, like a grocery app.
Okay.
That
what
we
grocery
use.
app?
I think it's called Groceries. I don't know. It might not be, but I think it's something like that.
Groceries. Look it up, everybody.
But I also have like other, like in my notes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll have like different lists. So it's just writing down things that work for you so that you remember, right? And you're not recreating it every single time. Like food prep.
Yeah.
Is a huge one, right? So what foods does your family enjoy?
Yeah.
Right? Make a list, write it down. So it's like, okay, what are we making this week? Well, let's look at our list. Instead it's like, okay, like what should we, I don't know, let's go to the grocery store every single day because we didn't pick up what we needed for the week. Right.
Well, and I think we probably expend so much energy and thought process, like you're saying, into trying to, figure out what we want to do rather than having something that's already there that we can just like go to for reference. And it doesn't mean you can't add to it. Doesn't mean you can't remove or change it. Like I think some people maybe think, well, if I write a list that's so rigid, but I'm like, we all know that you're stressed. When you go to think of what to cook for supper. So it's like if you had a list of like, hey, here's 10 things, add to it, remove from it. But like pulling from that list, I imagine is very helpful.
It is. And I don't know about your memory, but mine's not as great as it used to be. Like I literally forget things in 5 seconds. So if I'm not writing it down, it doesn't really exist.
Yeah. If you are on the market to buy or sell a home, or maybe both, and want to make the process as stress-free and smooth as possible, then I have the realtor for you. Lacey Cazette is an award-winning Saskatoon realtor who prides herself in being your one-stop shop for both buying and selling. And her passion for her work just shines through when you meet her. Lacey has over 12 years experience in the real estate industry, a 98% list to sale ratio, and she prioritizes an extensive and personalized marketing strategy for each of her clients. Because we all know that the best strategy is more important than ever now. Along with her husband and partner, Kyle Berneski, Lacey is licensed in residential, commercial, and farm. So she literally has you covered no matter what real estate area you need. And because she's built such solid connections in the industry, she can dial up the best lawyers, mortgage brokers, appraisers, and contractors for you too. Lacey has also given us an exclusive discount code for the Her community. You can use the code LACY5 to save $500 off one real estate transaction. You guys, that's huge. So if you want a driven, hardworking, and connected agent who'll go above and beyond for you, this is a no-brainer, guys. Get in touch with Lacey. You'll find her at Realty Executive Saskatoon or on socials at Lacey Cossette. That's at LACEYCOSSETTE and online at lacycossette.com. And remember to mention the code LACY5 to save $500 on one real estate transaction. We're linking all her info in the show notes for you.
Ever dreamt of waking up with lashes that are flawless and brows on point without lifting a finger? Well, Glam Lash Studio is here to make that dream a reality. If you're all about saving time in the morning while still looking absolutely stunning, this is for you. Lash extensions, brow laminations and waxes, keratin-infused lash lifts and tints. The dream team for an effortlessly stunning look. Emphasis on effortless. So here's the deal. Their lash extensions bring the drama, giving your eyes that extra pop. I used to have lash extensions and I absolutely loved how it looked. Brow laminations, it's like magic for your brows, giving them that Insta-worthy fluffiness. I recently had one of these and highly, highly recommend. And let's not forget about their lash lifts and tints, the not-so-secret weapon for a low-key, high-key, gorgeous look. Say goodbye to the morning makeup struggle and hello to routine as easy as hitting snooze. Your future self will thank you, trust me. Book in today at Glam Lash Studio and let their team of extensively trained and qualified staff do the rest. Our Her listeners are getting a special code to receive a discount on their next visit. Use code HER10 when booking in with the amazing staff at Glam Lash Studio. We're all about making our mornings easier, and we're doing that with Glam Lash Studio. Don't forget to use the code HER10 to save when booking. It's time to amp up those lashes and brows because life's too short for dull eyes and you deserve to shine. Don't forget to use code HER10 when booking and connect with them at glamlashstudio.yxe.
Like I will forget, even if I'm at the grocery store and I don't have it on the list, but I'm like, oh, right, but I also need, and it's not there. 9 times out of 10, I don't grab it.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, oh, I just needed that one thing.
It's like, that's why I went there.
Yeah.
For that one thing.
And it wasn't written down.
And I bought everything else.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So it's just like easy things like that. I mean, and that translates personal business.
Yeah.
Right? Writing down the processes that work in your business so that it's there and everybody knows and it's not, what do we do again? Right?
So you're a big
like, that's just
advocate
one.
for like writing things out.
Absolutely.
Okay. Would that almost be like step 1 for you? And like you're wanting to create like a better system or process is like write down what you need to do or what you are doing?
Yeah, for sure. It's
Okay.
like planning. Planning is everything.
Yeah.
Right? And taking the time and being intentional with your time to plan out whatever it is that you need to do. And then if it works, write it down. I mean, write it down anyways. And then you know what worked and what didn't, and you can tweak it.
So now that you've sold your business, because
Yeah.
then when did that sale go through?
July.
My gosh, so it's almost been a year.
Has it? Yeah.
Almost.
That's
Well, I mean, it's
crazy.
only March, but to me, I'm like,
yeah. It's already summer. I'm with
to
you.
me, I'm like, it's spring, which
it's
means
like
tomorrow's
pretty much
summer. That's what I mean. As soon as we hit this month,
Yeah.
I'm like, it is now warm season. Now that you're not so much, now I know you have another business, but focusing more on your personal life, are you, since you've sold the business, have you been like developing different systems and processes in your own home to make things run smoothly?
I don't feel like I have. And honestly, I think that is because I have more time. So
So now you're like, I can go to the grocery store every other day if I need to.
I mean, that still annoys me. So I still have that process in
No, that's a
place.
good one.
But you don't need a process for everything if it doesn't cause issues in your life. Like, why do we need to complicate every single thing?
I like that because I think right now there is this drive to be like super organized and on top of things and like the meal planning and, you know, the family calendar and to have like everything written out to a detail that some things that don't need to cause stress.
Yeah. Why?
Are causing, like, I don't need to put in my calendar every Tuesday that my kids are at their grandparents'. They're there. Like, we just know they're there. I don't probably need to be like putting in little things everywhere
Right.
to remind myself.
Right.
Because it's a non-issue.
Right.
But we can maybe even overstimulate ourselves by trying to like put everything in so it looks like we're super organized.
There's a huge problem with that. I feel like overstimulation.
Yes.
And I feel like that's a huge problem for a lot of people, business owners, is they work off these 3-mile long to-do lists.
Can you please go off on this?
Oh, this used to be me. So I am as guilty as anybody else, but I would open my calendar and I would be like, oh, I have 27,000 things I need to do today. Great. Like, how does that set you up for the day? It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like, your cortisol is like through the roof as soon as you wake up. Yeah. And like, that's how I operated for so long.
Yeah.
And so many people, like business owners that I'm working with too, they have lists and sticky notes and stuff everywhere. And it's just this chaos of like to-dos. And so coming up with a system to manage that so that you're not looking at this 3-mile long to-do list every single day.
Like, are you suggesting we like have priorities, like top 3 to 5 priorities for the day? You know, like how are we? So imagine someone is listening to this and we're sitting here and we're being like, yup, that's me. I have a to-do list that's 27,000 things long.
Yeah.
Like, how do we begin to change that and prioritize differently and change our mindset? And like, what would a process look like?
For me, the biggest thing that changed was using like a digital planning tool. That was a game changer for me. I use it as a mind dumping ground because we have so many things in our minds. And I feel like that causes a huge amount of anxiety for us. It's just, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget. Oh my gosh, all the things that we're always trying to. So if you can extract those from your head and put them into a tool where just sits, it's like that releases some of the anxiety for me.
Are you talking about like Trello or something like that?
I love Trello.
Okay.
I love Trello. And like, I'm not a Trello expert by any means, and I have like the non-paid version of Trello.
Yeah.
So, but
you're brain dumping.
I'm brain dumping like everything. Like even when you think of taking you see something, you take a screenshot and then it goes in your camera roll, and a year later you're like, what was this for? Right? You forget. I like take screenshots and I dump them in Trello, and it's like, I won't forget. It's there. It's like, right? And so I use Trello as my capture everything to do, and I organize it, but that's not what I work off of.
Okay.
I work off my list of 2 to 3 things that I have to get done every day.
Okay. So you're prioritizing them.
I'm prioritizing.
So you're like brain dumping so that we're not feeling so overloaded and that all those things in your mind have a place that can be found. So they're not free floating.
Nope.
But they're not sitting there as like, this is what I'm going to get done today. And you're trying to prioritize, let's say 2 to 3 things.
Yeah. So that'll be like in my business. So working on my business will be like, these are my top 2 to 3 things that I really need to get done today.
Yeah.
And then I'm also including, obviously, not forgetting my kids at school and like those sorts of things.
Well, I was going to ask, like, when you're planning out your day, let's go to like a day for Jordana, and you're thinking about your top priorities. Are you putting in work things first or life things first?
Things first.
Okay. So what does that look like for you?
So I'm putting in my personal. So any appointments, anything with a hard deadline that I can't forget, those actually, I use my Google Calendar for that, and I set alerts so that I'm not forgetting, and I check that every morning, and I dump those into my planner. So that's the first thing I do is like, what are my hard deadlines that I can't, negotiate on time?
So you said appointments, but would that also be like picking your kids up from school?
Yeah.
You can't forget them.
Yeah. Okay. So anything that's personal like that goes into my Google Calendar. And then, I don't program that every day for picking up my daughter from school. But
this is one of those things we know to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like you don't need to overplan everything.
Yes.
And then I just take my priorities and put them in my paper planner. So I've got this one piece of paper that I can look at with 2 to 3 things as opposed to 27,000.
And how does our cortisol feel?
And it's like, check.
Oh, I accomplished something today.
Are you scheduling in? Because I know you're active. I see you on social. I see you doing fitnessy things. So I'm like, are you scheduling that in? Or is that now just become like one of these things that you do every day and I don't need to schedule it in?
I schedule it.
Okay.
Because my schedule changes every day. So, I used to work out at 5:30. I don't work out at 5:30 a.m. anymore. No. So I find, again, pockets of time in my day that allow for me to work out. Yeah. So I'm taking all of that into consideration. But yes, I absolutely schedule it. Because if I don't, again, I don't know that it's going to happen.
Well, and I think what you just said is really great because I know I'm someone who gets really caught up in like working out at the same time every day. Like it like doesn't mean the same thing if one day I work out at 7:30 in the morning and then the next day I work out at 8:30 at night. Like I have this disconnect that like, oh, I'm not a workout girly now because I like can't keep that thing. And so I love that you're speaking to the fact that it's like you just have to find it.
Yeah.
If it's valuable to you. It's not valuable to everybody, but if it is of value to you, you can like look at your calendar and schedule it in where it fits.
Yeah. Oh, I work out at different times all the time. Oh, yeah. It just depends on what my day looks like. But I also make it a priority. So it's like I'm going to find the time. It's just where is that time tomorrow? I don't know.
Yes. So when it comes to the other thing I wanted to ask you about was habit stacking, because I know we've talked about this before, but I think we've talked about on our own page, habit stacking and also the relation to hustle culture and how sometimes people can like view them as one and the same. And I'm wondering how you navigate habit stacking while also making sure to not get back into like hustle culture.
I think there's a difference between like habit stacking and multitasking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So habit stacking for me is like taking two things that maybe are completely different and one is not going to impede on the other.
Okay.
So multitasking to me in terms of hustle culture, because that's where I used to be, I was doing so many things that were so important all at the same time or trying to, and obviously not doing very well at it. Whereas habit stacking for me is making use of time. I'm on the treadmill, like this is something I do. I know you see, and I'll answer my emails. That'll be my time. But I can walk without really thinking about it.
Yes.
And then I can answer my emails. And so I'm just doing two things that, aren't canceling each other out.
Yes.
It's just enhancing my time. And I don't always answer emails while I'm walking too.
Yeah.
I'll watch Netflix and whatever as well. So, but I think there's a difference. And I think the multitasking part is, more connected to the hustle culture.
Yeah, that
I would
actually
agree.
makes that makes a lot of sense because we've talked about this before and we're like, I think some people can get really into the habit stacking to the point that it becomes multitasking.
Yeah.
And hustling.
Right? And hustling.
Yeah.
It's like, how much can I do in a short amount of time? And right?
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, no, I have this time. I'm just walking on the treadmill anyway. I may as well get something else done.
Well, and I think something else you've said is there's a difference between being organized and being efficient. Can you explain to us how you see those two as different and what that means? Because I think a lot of people hear the word organized and they're like, if I'm quote unquote organized, then I'm efficient. And it's not necessarily.
I think it's intentionality. It's being intentional with your time. And what really matters is like the most important thing. You can organize, again, a huge to-do list, but are you really accomplishing anything towards what your goals are? So I think that's where the efficiency comes in. So I don't know. I just see it as, again, going back to prioritization.
I'm curious what your top one or two sort of systems or like things that you do in your day that are the most impactful for you and possibly our listeners might find impactful too. Like whether they're systems, whether it's like, schedule, an app that you use, like what are your sort of like most used systems or processes?
One of the systems I use every night before I shut down, like my work day, is I go through and I look at what I need to do tomorrow. So I'm not thinking about it at night. So I'm freeing up my mind. It's not like, oh, I can't remember what I have on my plate tomorrow. It's already planned out for me.
Yeah.
And then I'm revisiting it in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, right. Yeah, I got this. It's like, here are my things. And it sounds so simple, but I never used to do that.
Yeah.
I would open my phone first thing in the morning as I'm answering emails and trying to figure out my day and looking at like, what am I doing on this list?
Yep.
What are all the things that I need to get done? And I'm already in this tailspin of like...
Well, it's almost like we talk about this a lot, being in like a reactive mode compared to like a proactive mode, right? And checking out your list the night before means that the next morning when you open up, you're actually proactive. You already kind of know, even if you're not really aware because you've just woken up or whatever, there is something in your memory that's going to go, yes, I've seen this. I know what's happening. Probably more calmness to your morning, even if it's a hectic schedule. Like I know for me, I mean, I don't need to look at my calendar when I know we're podcasting, but I still will to be like, who are we talking to tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then I get to wake up and go, oh yeah, even though this is like kind of busy with my kids, I'm trying to get them all out the door and I'm trying to get Nick out the door. It's like, the part of work, though, doesn't need to be giving me stress, even if my gaggle of children is.
Yeah. And
right?
It's doing that on a weekly basis, too. So every Sunday, again, it's just being intentional. It's like I schedule in a time that I look at my schedule, but I do, because if I'm not intentional with it and I don't schedule it in, it likely won't happen.
Yeah.
But and it's not long. I take 5 minutes and I'm like, what does my week look like? What are all the appointments that I have to do? Doctor's appointment, whatever it is. And what are my top priorities for this week? What do I know I need to get done? Right. And so it's just setting myself up for the week. And it also goes into my personal life. What are we eating this week? Where are my kids? Where are their activities? Who's eating at what time? Do I have to have anything ready? Like, it's just knowing, and there's always going to be things that come up too, but it's knowing as best as you can how to prepare yourself for the week. Like, how can I prep some food so that I know that we have lunches or whatever it is? So it's just being intentional and planning,
proactive, right? Thinking, forethought, thinking ahead.
And I think a lot of people think it's like takes a lot of time, but it really doesn't. Like, it literally is for sure no more than 10 minutes.
Yeah. Just going through everything.
Yeah.
And I think what you're probably also saying is like being intentional and proactive with the understanding that things are going to come up. Of course. And no amount of planning. Because that's the other thing I think people can do. What we said, right, is they can like plan to a T and all of a sudden something comes up and their world explodes because they didn't anticipate it coming. Yeah. But it's like holding grace and holding these two ideas in both hands, which is like we can be proactive and be thought out and be cool while also understanding life happens.
Yeah. Well, and I think like for me, the biggest thing is in making sure I have margin in my day and in my week, because I think we all know that these things are going to come up unexpected, right? And so it's like if you're actually over scheduling your week or your day and you're so busy and it's so jam packed and everything is back to back, that's when you're going to get a backlog, right? That's when we're going to get a 5-car pileup, because if one thing is off, it's going to affect the next 6 things, right?
I leave a buffer on the side of everything.
Yeah. Yes.
You just never know. And if you have extra time, well, great. Then you've got extra time. But I always leave, 10, 15 minute buffer just to make sure. The other thing that I do that I use religiously, and I don't want to say it because my phone might talk to me, but I tell Siri all the time to time things. And so I time everything. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's a habit that I've just come about to use. And I time... it just creates guidelines for me. It creates management of...
Are you asking her to time your task, or
no, just to set the timer.
Oh, okay. I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. So it keeps me focused. It keeps me on track. And it's like I'm never going over the time that I have allotted for one particular task. It makes sure that I have time allotted for everything. And when I get really focused, it's like the timer goes off and it's like, okay, it's time to go pick up your child from school so you don't forget her, right? Yeah. I clearly did that. So
that's a thing that we keep circling back to.
Yeah, this is a thing. So, but I time a lot of things. Like I set my timer for a lot of things.
Wait.
Go ahead.
You.
Okay. No, and I was going to say, even for things that you don't want to do, I will set my timer for. Right? Because I'm procrastinating. I don't want to do this task. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm dreading it. It's like, I can do anything for 20 minutes. Set that timer and go. And before you know it, 20 minutes is done. But I do that a lot.
See, I would struggle with that personally only because I hate starting a task if I can't finish it. So if I were to be like, I'm going to set it for 20 minutes and then I wasn't done the task, I'd be like, what now? What do you mean I have to leave this? Which is, I'm sure, a part of my ADHD, which is like the time, right? I need either all the time or no time at all. There's not really like that buffer for me, but I do like that.
Well, and I guess that's the other part of not being rigid. It's like, not every time do I leave the task. It's like my time's up, but I'm really in it. So
and you
I'm going to spend more time.
Yeah.
So there's some flexibility in there too. It just really keeps me in line, basically. And then I can just decide, do I want to continue or not?
Okay. And you said that this was a habit you developed like over time. I'm curious on what other habits you have either just naturally have, or that you've like been really proactive in implementing during your day or your week, so that you can be successful, because you are successful. And I feel like you're someone who I look at on stories and I'm like, I gotta be like Jordana. Like, I gotta be like,
you're inspo.
Yeah, inspo for sure. And so I'm wondering, like, I know, like you said, you're working out daily, right? But I'm like, what other habits are you working on implementing in your life?
That's a really good question.
I feel like I know one.
Okay, tell me.
Well, I feel like water. I feel
I was
like
going to say hydration has to be in there.
That's so funny because I don't even think about it anymore.
See, but that's the thing. Because for
Yeah.
me, I literally have to be like Nick will say, like, did you drink water today? And I'll be like, did now? And I'll
did,
yes, as I'm like chugging because I forget, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I do have that habit. I mean, and that's just, when you continue doing habits over time, they just become part of your life and it's no longer something you need to think of. So yeah, I have a lot of those probably, but I don't know. I guess I've just been a scheduler for a very long time, that these things are just part of my life and I don't necessarily recognize them as like, this is the habit that I created.
Okay.
But
is there a new habit that you're trying to implement lately? Like something that you're trying to work on?
I always have something. Yeah, I always have something that I'm working on. And it's just little things that my latest one, I know this is going to sound funny, but I really want to start making my bed in the morning.
I started doing that at the beginning of 2024.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It's like, really?
It makes
How
a
old am I?
difference.
But I just really wanted to have my bed made.
Yep.
And so, And so for me, how I create a habit and stick to a habit is by writing it down. And so I journal every morning for 2.5 minutes, very, very quick, but it's a habit that I created that I've been doing.
Great.
And I include something I'm working on. And so that was my latest one. And so every day I would write about it and be like, oh shoot, I forgot to make my bed. I'd literally forget. Yeah, exactly. See,
Are you journaling in your bed or no? You're journaling in your office?
My office. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's part of like just my morning routine.
How do you only journal for 2.5 minutes?
I'm quick. Like I just need quick things.
Like, what are you saying? What's coming up in the day? Like, do you have any prompts?
Yeah. So I always focus on like the 5 things I'm grateful for. So, and the, some days it's harder than others, I guess, but I'm pretty good at figuring out what I'm grateful for. And then I always have a prompt. And so I've changed the prompt every year. So this year my prompt is I will. So I will blah, 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 blah.
Make my bed.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that's part of it. And then I always have a habit that I'm working on.
Yeah.
So I guess I need a new habit because I've been making my bed.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I've been making my bed so consistently that like the other day I didn't, and it felt so weird. Like I went to leave my room and I was like, ugh, and I like went back to do it because I was like this. And I'm not saying I make it like, it's not like hotel worthy. Okay.
No.
We're like making sure everything is like, sometimes when Nick gets up after me, I will literally like throw the covers over him. And I'll be like, just slide out of the bed when you leave, because then it'll be made. And he'll be like, what are you doing? You're making me in the bed. And I'm like, just slide out when you're done.
Or once he gets out, it's like I go back and I'm like, okay, now we're good.
Just flip that corner over and we're good to go. That's a great habit though. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, my grandmother was like that. My grandma was like, make your bed every morning. And I hated it and I never understood it. And now I get it. I actually feel like it sets your day. And it sets every time you even walk into your bedroom.
Yeah.
There's like a organization that's happening in there very calmly.
I actually just thought of another habit.
Oh, I want to hear it.
Email.
Yeah. Tell us.
The bane of my existence. So I had a huge issue with email. Like I checked my email like 35 bazillion times a day.
Okay.
Like it was a habit, like a really bad habit. And I always checked it first thing when I woke up, which was an awful, awful habit to get into. But I did that throughout my entire time in my chaotic world of business.
Yeah.
So not checking my email. And I had to write that one out because I still, like, not even focusing, not even being aware of what I was doing. I would open my phone and
your fingers will just do it for you.
Will go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm in my email. What am I doing?
Yeah.
So that was a really hard one.
Which I think a lot of people can relate, whether it's email, it's going to be their phone, or social media.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think a lot of people are struggling, and we've created these habits and patterns, especially first thing in the morning, especially in the evening.
We're like rolling over and we're like, oh, let's wake up. Phone is on, blaring in our eyes. Yeah.
Right? Or any down moment. We're just literally grabbing for it. Right? And all of a sudden you're in the middle of it and you just mindlessly, right?
Mindlessly.
Yeah, because your
It's
brain
crazy.
has mapped patterns.
Yes.
You're just like deep into it, if that makes sense. Right.
That
So
was a
how are you
hard
stopping
one.
email? You said you're like writing through it, but like how? Because I think that can apply to.
I have stopped.
Okay.
I will catch myself. Like, I'm not 100% on this by any means. I am so much better than I used to be, but I wrote about it every day. Like,
to bring it like
to awareness. It was like just awareness of what I was doing. And I literally would wake up and check my email first thing. And when you have a business and you wake up to 100 emails,
cortisol.
yeah,
Through
it
the
was
roof.
insane.
Yeah.
And so, and I continued on with that even when I sold my business. I had way less emails.
Yeah.
But it was still the habit and it was still the pattern of checking it. And I was still stressed. Like, it was like, it sent me into this like very non-peaceful mode.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's one that I've really, really, really worked on, but it took a lot longer than learning to make my bed.
Hey everybody, it's Erica. You guys know I love a quality handbag, and I recently found a luxury resale company that I have to share with you. Working Girls Boutique offers a stunning selection of gently loved luxury handbags and a safe, reliable, and secure way to purchase your dream bag. They have a strong commitment to authenticity and choose carefully curated pieces in excellent condition, which include Prada, YSL, Louis Vuitton, and they have a stunning Chanel collection, which is 100% on my dream list. One thing I love about Working Girls Boutique is how seriously they take making sure each piece is authentic. Ensuring authenticity of luxury items is a serious business, and Working Girls Boutique prides themselves on thoroughly checking every item they choose to the highest degree. They even use AI technology so you can feel super secure about the bags you are investing in. Working Girls Boutique also offers a flexible payment plan so you can secure your dream bag without breaking the bank. Plus, you know, they gave us an exclusive discount code for the Her community, which is amazing. It's code HER50 to save $50 off your purchase. If you're like me and constantly looking for that next dream bag to add to your closet, you can find all the details on the newest designer additions on their Instagram at Working Girls Boutique, and head to their website, wgboutique.com, to secure your dream bag. Don't forget to use the code HER50 for $50 off your purchase, and 100% make sure to tag me because I want to see what bag you snagged.
Yeah.
Like a raw logger.
Well, and then, so how are you checking your emails now?
Like, what do I?
Yeah,
what's
so
my
now
pattern?
now that you've like, okay, we're not checking them first
Like,
thing
is
in
it
the morning.
scheduled?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't check them until I sit down with my cup of coffee in the morning. So I have a time where I actually, it's like, again, intentional, being proactive about it. And I'm not checking them all the time. I have, you know, times throughout the day where I will actually check them, but it's not like when I'm just sitting around doing nothing. Oh, I may as well check email. Because when you do that, you go off and you start doing things that are directed by your email. This is somebody else's agenda for your day. And you are taking that and you are running with it. And it's like all the things that you had intended for your day are no longer what you're focusing on.
Yes.
You're focusing on putting out the
Others.
fire, sending paperwork to whoever needed. Like, it's just, it's not your agenda anymore. It's somebody else's.
So did you at any point have to like put your phone in a different room, or like, do you have your notifications off?
Yeah,
Like,
off.
have you done? Yeah.
Completely
I
off.
know. Same. I'm just like on do not disturb 3000.
Yeah.
25/7.
25/7. I have to. I
Yeah.
have to have them off.
Yeah. Because then it's your choice.
And then,
It's your choice when you do something and when you
actually
engage.
forget about it.
Yes.
When it's off and it's not binging at you.
Same like the opposite with emails, and I never look at them because I'm like, ugh. I'm like a volunteer on a couple things now, and they just like, no, you can't email Erica because she won't look. You gotta text her if you want to get old. Which I mean is not a great habit either, but I'm the opposite. I like
Well, and I
Okay.
think some people who are not email, social media, right?
Right.
Or like anything on their phone or
Or
game,
text
TV.
is just as bad
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
It's like,
totally.
it's not even necessarily that it was email. It was just email for me.
Yes.
But social media, text, it's like creating boundaries.
Yeah.
So how are you
huge.
creating boundaries in your life other than that?
You know, now, I mean, I created during my whole transition with my business.
Yeah.
That was a huge part of it, is like creating those boundaries and not looking at it as a bad thing, but a really good thing. And it took a while. It took a while to train myself and to train, it sounds bad, not train my staff, but like get them
No, it's
you know,
fair.
like
Yeah.
on board with it and understand that it's not Like I'm not shutting them out, but I can't be there all the time to deal with all the things, right? And so it's just little things that I did to create those boundaries, and it works. It really does work. It just takes time and consistency, because it's easy to just give into that text that you get at 10:30 at night and respond to it. But when people realize that you don't respond to it, they're far less likely to send the text in the first place.
Well, and I think people have a hard time going through a period of discomfort or disease, right? And it's like anytime you implement any change, there's going to be some waves that come from that, right? Because you've had a natural way of interacting or a pattern that has been, going on for so long. And so anytime you change that, it will affect the other person or relationship sometimes. And so it can take some time to get over that hump. And I think too many people get a little bit of discomfort and then they're like, I'm going to give in. Right. Yeah. But it's like, you're so important. Like you're worth it. Your time is worth it. Right.
Yeah. It's very uncomfortable to start creating boundaries when you didn't have any. It's like almost.
Tell us about that because you'll know.
Yeah. I had zero.
Yeah.
I had zero boundaries.
Yeah.
You could call me, text me, do whatever, and I'll be there, and I'll do it whatever time it was. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if I was on vacation. It didn't matter if I was at my daughter's volleyball game. It didn't matter. I would jump right into it.
Did you lose friends?
No.
Or relationships when you shifted?
Oh, when I shifted, I'm like, because I was helping her.
No, I actually any friends.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't. I don't think that I did. I think it was more me. Like I felt guilty. Like that was hard for me, especially with my staff.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want them ever to feel like it was an abandonment thing. Like don't care, or I don't want to help, or I'm not available for you.
Yeah.
So that shift in mindset was huge for me, that it wasn't about that. It wasn't about that. It was about finding time where it was okay to be working on my business and to be available. So that was a big one. But wow, does it change things? It's massive. It just setting boundaries, even communication. Like communication is so important, but not all the time, like day and night,
Yes. I feel like you're good at making decisions. And I'm wondering if you can speak to like how you make decisions, whether it's in life or your business. And if you're someone who is like a researcher and looks at all the angles, or are you someone who's like listening to their gut?
Both.
Okay.
I am a researcher for sure. I do research things. I also listen to my gut, and I'm not worried about making the wrong decision. Like I don't care if I fail. Like, and I don't even like fail, whatever. I don't care if it doesn't work, because I tried and I know that I can try something different. So to me, that is like, as long as you take the plunge and you try something out, it doesn't matter.
Do you feel then like maybe we have so much decision fatigue because we feel like if we make the wrong choice, we're going to be, letting ourselves down or someone else down? You know what I mean? I heard this study. Oh, I'm going to quote this so wrong, but it was like, I think it was like Esther Perel, maybe like at Harvard had done it. And maybe it was someone else, but it was like, instead of making a decision for the next week, she had her students, every time they needed to make a decision, flip a coin.
Oh.
And so you had two options of like, I'm going to eat this or I'm going to eat this, and then flip a coin and then just go forward with, whatever the coin flip was. And at the end of the week, she asked, like, did it actually hinder your life? Did you make the wrong choice? And they were like, no, my days got so much easier. And I had so much more like mental capacity and time. And it was like, it's actually just the weight that we place on the decision compared to like, you're saying, are we picking the wrong one or the right one? Right. And so I was like, oh, that's an interesting concept to think about. Maybe sometimes it's the pressure that we're like putting on ourselves potentially.
Yeah. I think that could be. I mean, I also get decision fatigue around cooking meals for my family, who's like, I don't know what I want. So definitely, I mean, there's things that.
Well, and I think there's difference between maybe like flipping a coin for like where you're going to eat compared to like, am I selling my business?
Oh, no. I would flip a coin on
and
the
like,
coin.
I know you wouldn't flip it, but I'm saying like, I think that's where like some people are caught up in this, like, how do I make, and maybe decision fatigue and listening and just making decisions are like two different things. But I just think like, I was just interested on how you make decisions. Like, are you making a pros and cons list? Are you like, I'm a talk to think kind of person, right? Nick is like sitting there as I go through every option possible before I get to my decision. How are you making decisions for your new business or for your life personally?
I think, like I had said, I think I'm a little bit of all of it. Like I do my due diligence and do research, but I also do trust my gut. But I don't know. I'm just not afraid to try, and I'm excited by new challenges. So that, you know, some people don't like that.
Yes.
So that makes the decisions harder. I mean, when it comes to selling my business, obviously that was a decision I had thought about for a very long time and weighed pros and cons. So I think it depends on like how big the decision is as well. But no, I've been told I make decisions quickly. But again, I don't. It's just like, let's do something. Inaction to me is so frustrating. Like I am not, like I like to just move forward.
Yeah. Are you seeking advice from others? Or by the time you're telling someone else, you have an idea? Have you like decided you're doing it?
Again, it depends on the decision. And I ask maybe a very select few. I'm not one to be like, hey, everybody, here's my, right? Yeah. Like, I'm thinking about selling my business. What do you think? Yeah. What do you think? What do you, right? Yeah. Like, there's a few key
you have like
people.
An inner circle that you're like, this is who I trust.
But I kept, you know, my bigger decisions, I tend to keep quite private. I do trust that I'm going to make, you know, at least somewhat of a good decision. I mean, you'll never know, right? Until you try or until you do it.
I'm encouraged to hear that you are also someone who's like, I'm not afraid to fail. Like we can just go for it. Yeah. And you're right. There are a lot of people who struggle with that idea because a lot of people are afraid to fail and fail. We're saying that loosely. Yeah, like what is failure, right? Yeah. It really just depends what you yourself view as failure. But I think that's very, very cool.
Last question for you is I'd love to talk about the time audit.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. And I think that that's something that we can encourage our listeners to even go check out. But like, what is a time audit? I feel like, is that one of the first steps when you work with someone that you get them to do is like track what they're doing in a day?
So a time audit is just basically looking at how you spend your time in your day. And it's really crazy how we think we spend our time or how much time we think we're spending on something versus how much we actually are, again, when we're timing it, right? So it's just really an analysis of how you spend your time. And you can do a time audit in just by memory. You can do it loosely and just be like, well, you know, these are the things that I did yesterday and this is how much time I spent on it. Or you can really get granular and time it and look at, you know, how am I doing this? How am I spending, you know, the time in my day? And I usually say like a 3 to 5 day period is better than just looking at sort of one day, right? Because in 3 to 5 days, you get an assortment of things that you're doing, a variety, right? So it's just writing things down, looking at how much time you're spending on different key activities. Are you spending your time the way you want to be? Are you working towards your goals? Whatever those are, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. You know, if your goal is to do nothing for 5 days and you're doing nothing, well, you achieve those goals, right? So it just depends on what you're working towards. So it's a really huge eye opener, I think, for a lot of people. I think of it too, like when I was bodybuilding and just learning the ins and outs of like calorie counting. And when you're bodybuilding, like, you have to be very, very on, right? And so you have to know exactly how many grams of protein and carbs and everything that you're eating. Yeah. So the more specific you are, the greater your results are going to be, right? And it's the same with your time. The more specific you are and the more you know exactly what you're doing, the more beneficial it's going to be, right? And you can really take that and start manipulating it.
Right. And I like that because I feel like anyone who's listening could relate to whether they're like, I want to be more efficient in my business, so I want to get more done, you know, here so that I can get more done over here. Or if someone's like, I want to get more done here so I have time over here that I don't have to be working. Yeah. And so when you're saying people can time their, like, would you suggest someone times everything? Like going to the bathroom?
Well,
I don't know. I'm just curious.
If it's more than maybe a couple of minutes, I might like maybe you're going to the bathroom and you're on your phone for half an hour. I don't know.
See, but that's my right. Is there, because then maybe you'd be timing how much you're on your phone. Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. Like it just depends. But
because I think like driving in the car, like for me, right, living out of the city, it's like I spend so much time in my vehicle. Like I feel like I waste so much time in my vehicle. I have to get to the place I'm going, right? Yeah. But that's very interesting. I've never done a time audit on my life.
Yeah, you should try.
Oh my gosh, I'm scared.
Really?
I feel like it's just like with anything, when you can like see it in front of you, then you just are like, oh, like I knew this, or like something, you get new information, or you're like, oh, I actually, you know, maybe I can do this. Yeah, I mean, like, I know you listen sometimes to podcasts or phone a family member or a friend when you're driving. I'm like, that's good quality time too.
Yes.
Right?
Habit stacking.
Maybe we'll have
That
to do
habit
time
stacking.
audits.
Well, that was funny, actually, the habit stacking, because for a while I was doing, and this is where I think it's good to hear other people's perspectives, because I think on one hand, I'm like, I love the idea. And, you know, there was a time where CJ and I would do like phone calls while we were on the treadmill. And then there was times when I'd be like trying to answer emails. And then I realized for me personally, I need my treadmill time to be my treadmill time.
Yeah.
Like it's my, I mean, like I said, I have 5 children now.
Yeah.
Husband, farm, all this stuff going on. I'm like, I actually need that 30 minutes to be like, this is actually just about me.
And this is the thing, there's no right or wrong. What works for me, and that's why I hesitate sometimes to be like, this is what I do, because that probably won't work for a lot of people. So it doesn't matter necessarily. It's like, it's developing the processes and systems that are going to work for you and your life. That's what matters. As long as you're happy and you're accomplishing what you want, whether it's personal, professional, whatever it is, that's all that matters. Right? It's just figuring that out.
Yeah. And I think what's great is when we can hear other people's processes or systems. Like if we actually took the time, we don't have the time today, but to like go through each of our things, 3 different people listening, or someone might hear themselves in each process or system and go, oh, I want to try that, or I'm going to implement that. And you can actually mesh all these different things together to find something that works for you.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask about your morning and evening routine.
Okay. So I get up.
Alarm.
Yes, I have
Sunlight?
to. No, I have to do alarm.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't wake up.
Yeah.
And is it your phone, or is it like a clock?
No, it is my phone, and I do have it beside my bed.
Okay.
I've you know, separated myself from using my phone, you know, in the first thing in the morning. But I set my phone alarm. I get up to an alarm. How much detail do you want?
I want all of it.
I want
all of it.
Okay.
We listen to a lot of stuff on morning and evening routine, so we're fascinated by it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I get up and I wash my face.
Yes.
And then I meditate.
Okay.
So
With an app?
Yeah. So I have an app, but I also actually prefer YouTube.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
Yep.
And I am a 5-minute meditator.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah. So I have a lot of habits, but they're not long. Like the journaling, like they're very quick things.
Great.
So I meditate.
Really fast question, because I'm super curious, and you're probably gonna be like, I have no idea. It's called Groceries. The app. Do you have a favorite YouTube meditation lately? You know, like one that you can like,
I don't
remember
know
the
the
head or
name.
person. Okay.
I tend to get the same ones in my feed.
Yeah.
And when I see 5 minutes, I'm like, play.
Great.
So I don't know the name of it though, but
Continue.
so what do? I'm half asleep. Okay, so I'm meditating, and I go downstairs, and this is so funny. I make tea.
Yep.
So I have this tea blend that I use. So I do that, and I get my daughter's lunch together. This is so funny that I'm regurgitating all this. But
Oh no, it's making me think about my morning routine now too. So I like this.
Okay,
That's great.
And so
you're not coffee first thing in the morning.
No, this is like a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
But so I have these teas that I drink.
Great.
So it's
Love
going to make me look younger and help me with my perimenopause and other things.
my gosh,
so
I love it.
Yeah. So, and then I go and journal.
Yeah.
So I go and journal, and then I make my coffee. I've had vitamins in there too. There's just so many things that I do. I don't even know if I can remember them all, but then I have my coffee.
Yep.
And I sit down with my coffee, and that's when I first look at my phone.
Yeah.
So I do that for a little while, and then I take my daughter to school in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much like my first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very different now that I work from home because I go and I drive her to school like in my sweatpants and my hair and like the whole, like it's...
You're not getting
I'm
ready
not
every
getting
day?
ready yet. No. And I sometimes don't get ready at all during the day. But
There we go.
So that's pretty much my morning. And then when I come home, actually, after I journal too, I do look at my day.
Yes.
So I've got my planner there,
That,
and
like,
I look
little
at
check-in.
check in and make sure I know exactly what I'm doing when I get home. Now my bedtime routine. Oh, it seems to take forever.
Okay.
I have a lot. it's just a lot of like,
Well, I feel like you're into
beautifying.
wellness and anti-aging, you know? So I'm like, this is good.
Are you like drinking something before bed to help you sleep, or taking something, or are you meditating again? Because some people like to meditate at night before they go to
Lymphatic
bed.
drainage.
Yeah,
I
what's
do
like,
all of, I do all the things.
Okay.
I'm
are
like
you doing that like gua sha thing?
Yeah, I am. I do a lot of oils and like facial oils and like a lot of things. I'm trying to do a lot more natural stuff too, so I've been really into that. But I don't meditate before I go to sleep. I do vitamins. I take magnesium before I go to sleep, and just a lot of like beautifying stuff, you know?
Yeah, you're
and but it's like it takes forever. I don't know why it takes forever. My husband's like, oh, I'm going to sleep. 2 minutes later, he's asleep. And I'm like, okay, an hour later. Okay, I'm still putting oil on my face.
Are you putting your phone down a certain time before you go to bed?
No, not really.
Not really. Like, will you
No.
look at your phone, put it down, and go to bed right away? Like, I try to not be on my phone.
I do that. But yeah, I haven't had an issue sort of with that. And whatever I'm watching or doing is like, I don't know, it's like leisure. Like it's just for fun. Like it's not, not like working until I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. And sleep is a huge thing for me too. Like I need a lot of sleep. And so just setting myself up, you know, to be able to sleep the best that I can, because I'm having some issues with that lately. So yeah, so just trying to set myself up. And, you know, I really want to even start maybe my bedtime routine a little bit early. I just find it harder with my kids being older.
Yes, because they want to be up late probably.
Yeah, they are very, very late.
Yeah.
And, you know, the homework thing or whatever is happening. And like my daughter doesn't get home from cheer until almost 10:30 at night. And if she has, you know, it's just, so it's sometimes difficult, you know, and like there's that flexibility. I can't be in bed by 10:30 every single night if I'm driving her. Right. So you have to have that flexibility, and you can only do so much. You just, you know, the best that you can do. So.
No, I love that. I know you feel like, why would we want to know that?
No.
But I always think what I was actually thinking as you were going through your morning routine is I was like, I've always like, I used to have a really great morning routine like years ago. And I feel like since having all of these kids and everything, it's just been like really crazy. But as you were going through your morning routine, I was like, oh, I do that. Or I do that, right? I make my lunches for my kids at almost the same time every day. And I think what can be encouraging is there is this desire, I think, with a lot of people to have these really cool morning routines where we're like, I am doing all the things, or I'm going to implement these new things, when really it's like, you might already have a morning routine that's working for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this big overhaul of things. You could add one new thing or remove something if you want.
Yeah.
And so as I'm listening to yours, I'm like, oh, like I do that and I do this, and oh, that's interesting. I could implement that. So I think it's good that you shared it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think like what serves you, right? Exactly like you're saying. Like, you know, for our listeners and all of us, I think it's always important, you know, even the processes and systems we talked about today, it's like what works for your life, right? Like we can get really inspired, and, you know, maybe there's things you can take away and be like, oh, I'm going to try that. Right. But it's like what actually works. None of us are living your life.
No.
Right.
And it's baby steps. Like you don't have to overhaul everything.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Yeah. Like one thing at a time. Right.
And that seems to be big for you. What I'm catching on today is that you actually do little incremental things.
Everything. It's
seems more so than big things.
Yeah. It's more manageable. It's less overwhelming.
Well, I feel like it's like New Year's goals when people come in with like 30 New Year's resolutions and they fail within the first 3 weeks. But it's like, if you actually just gave yourself one thing, you'd probably accomplish it within like 2 months, and then you could add a new thing.
Yeah.
Right. We get too overstimulated or whatever with all the things we're trying to change at the same time, and overwhelmed. That's what I was looking for. We're too overwhelmed with everything. Yeah. So hopefully what people will take away today is like small little changes can make actually a really big lasting impact on the way you're running your life, whether you're a business owner or you're managing a household or you're managing a classroom, like whatever you're doing, set it, you know, you can do a time audit, look at what's going on, and then try to implement maybe one new process.
Yeah. Decide one thing that maybe you're not totally happy with. It's like, just take the step and try it.
Yeah. I like that.
Such a great takeaway. Jordana, where can everyone find and follow you, get connected? Please tell us about some of your offerings that you have if people are interested in working with you.
Yeah. So this is going to air after I launch my program. So I am launching my program, which is this week. So that's exciting. And I'll probably won't launch again until the fall because, I'm taking a lot of the summer off, which is, a goal of mine. So, but I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
Sometimes reluctantly at Jordana Jacobson.
Yes. You need to follow her. You will be inspired.
Yeah. So that's where, you can find me there. And I have all the things if you are interested in doing a time audit that can be found in my link. And any information really about me is in there. So.
Yeah, and you have an email list, which is really fantastic, and a blog that you've put up recently. You've got some really great resources, so you guys definitely need to go check out, and we'll put some of those in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on today and sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Her Podcast. If you want to follow along with us, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at its.her.podcast. We can't wait to see you there.